All right. Hi, everybody. This is going to be a little different. This is the Nicest Guys in Detroit podcast. I am here with one of the nicest women who used to be in Detroit, Chelsea. And today is going to be an interesting day. First of all, I'm doing this live. I don't know why I'm doing it live instead of not recording it, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it live. Live a little, right? So Chelsea is going to give me a reading. This should be interesting. She's going to give me a tarot card reading today, which is very interesting because I don't believe in tarot cards or astrology or ghosts or anything else.
Yeah, most of my experience in life.
Yep, so yeah, all of her experiences are the opposite of mine, so that's kind of why I'm doing this live. I want to see what happens. I want to see how it goes with no editing, nothing else going into it to cheat. It's just going to be what it is. So, Chelsea, welcome here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the podcast that I'm basically just starting. You know, it's a new thing for me, so I'm getting some of the kinks out. But it took me an hour to figure out how to split screen our video, but I got it done. I think it's working. It seems to be streaming, so it's going well.
So we're here.
Yep. So how are you doing today?
Today is an interesting day. The cool thing about tarot, I want to tell people that are listening, is that it's a system that always works, which is why I like it. Intuitive stuff can be so wishy-washy, like you're getting different kinds of intuitive information through your own system. It can come through in ways that you don't feel comfortable expressing or different imagery that you might not understand. Having tarot cards is the coolest way to talk about the past, present, and future in like that get right under the surface of stuff kind of way, because you'll see patterns in the ways that the cards come up. So the first card that came up today was the Ten of Swords, and for anybody listening that does tarot, they're like, yeah, that's the worst. Ten of Swords is a really mental card. Being at your wit's end, not being able to figure anything out, and just feeling like there's so many things all over the place, and you're trying to really understand, you know, what's next for you and how to do it, and just you feel like you keep hitting a wall mentally in every direction. It's super internal frustration. So when you ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, oh, that is how I'm doing. To start the day off.
All right, you lost me. I'm taking a shot.
So today started off, you know, I don't know if anybody else can relate, but super just like trapped in your own head, feeling like you can't keep living the way that you're living, but also not seeing a way out necessarily because everything mentally is a dead end. Like, oh, if I do this way, then that affects this financial area, and then that affects this thing. And so it's almost like we can't conceive of what is coming next on a mental level, which makes sense because mental is just a combination of all the things that we've experienced and observed so far in life. So since we have no reference point from the past for all the crazy shit that we're doing right now, why would we not be confused and like at our wit's end? You know what I mean?
All right.
Does that make sense?
Not really, but I'm just going along. I'm just shaking my head with you, like I agree.
So that's how I feel today. I feel like there's a dimension, you know, underlying every day of existence since the year started, pretty much even before COVID hit, of like anxiety and panic and the world changing so much every second, every day. Just knowing that there's stuff coming in, and you know, society, finances, everything seems to be just like toppling.
Yeah,
so.
It is definitely a crazy year, and I think it's been a very awakening year for many people. Go ahead.
When you say awakening, how do you feel? Like, what things have you awakened to that weren't obvious or at the forefront?
Oh, I already knew this stuff. I was already prepped for everything. I prepped for a zombie apocalypse. Once COVID hit, I was like, yeah, everybody's going to want to come to my place. I have food, canned food, and guns and everything. I'm all set. You know, like, I have a fortress here. But in all seriousness, a lot of institutions people are realizing are not as rock solid as they believe them to be. And I think we're going to get 2021, we're going to get a huge bad hit. I think a lot of things are kept open artificially right now. A lot of jobs are being kept afloat because people don't want everything to fall apart completely now. But I think like the white collar sector is going to get hit with another bad recession next year. That's my prediction without tarot. Just my magical prediction that I came up with. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now in my thought process. I don't want to bore people with this because it's more about you and not me dooming and glooming about the future right now.
Well, we're all going to be dooming and glooming about the future because even what we talked about before, I'm working on a book right now, just the manifesto actually, so it's a short, paper thing, channeling some of the future. And, like you said, I don't know that we can even imagine the process that's going to happen as things like continue to disintegrate. Hotels and big establishments we were talking about are closing and
Yeah, the big thing is going to be something like if you look at Big Beaver Road, since we're a Detroit-based show, I can talk about Detroit areas. If you look at Big Beaver, every restaurant, it's full of restaurants and obviously the mall there. But it's all based around the business there. My office that I never go to is technically on Big Beaver, and so many other offices and things are there. Without them there, that was all the business for those businesses. So even when not just talking about COVID restrictions themselves, they just aren't getting a lunch crowd. Nobody, people in Troy aren't going to lunch at Kona Grill. I mean, they might be. I might be completely wrong, but in general, that was a business crowd. And what happens when all of these offices, people realize that working from home is how it should be. When all these offices close and all the businesses that are based around the offices are going to get hit by that. So that's just, I don't want to ramble too much, but that's just one sector that we kind of started talking about before we started this.
It makes so much sense. Like you said, I've worked at those places when I was still working in restaurants that are very dependent on certain businesses bringing the lunch crowd that are around you. So like you're saying, it's obvious to you as you're driving by or you're watching that whole area. It's like, yeah, those people are not going to be able to sustain their jobs. There's already restrictions on top of that too with the masks and everything else. But like you said, if we want to go really deep, then we can talk about how having a job in the first place is mostly what I feel is like a form of slavery and indentured servitude to whoever may be in power. I don't have a fully formed thought on this, but I figure it's worth talking about.
Given that I have a job, I have to be very careful about what I say here, so I'm just going to look at you right now.
That's totally fine, because you can opt out, because the reason that I self-employ myself and how I'm questioning right now, what is the point of assigning people jobs or having jobs available if the economy's breaking down, businesses aren't sustainable, and all we really want, I think, is to be doing what Aaron and I are doing right now, which is sitting across from each other, talking, and physically being in the same space, enjoying something real and genuine.
Right.
I also think that this is leading us back to the earth and the resources that we have. Being out in the sun feels amazing. Being with people you care about without any rush or chain on your time. That's my big thing about jobs, is I don't want to sell my time anymore. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to be a piece of art or function as I would without trying to fit that into somebody else's idea of what I should be doing in exchange for me being able to live physically, So the way that I see it is that we're going to create a universal trade system. Aaron and I were talking about this before, so this is a little bit of a repeat of our conversation. I
am a UBI fan, Universal Basic Income. I think, I won't say fan as much as I think it's an inevitability that it will happen eventually. It has to. I mean, I might as well claim Yang Gang right now because that was the rallying cry there. But yeah, we're just getting to that point. People are realizing how artificial the monetary system is. And then jobs are going to disappear. Automation is going to hit faster and faster and harder and harder. And a lot of jobs that even exist are artificial. So I think we are heading there. And I don't mind it. I would like to, I know people are all raised on socialism bad and
capitalism good.
yeah, capitalism good. Everybody's, one step away from being a millionaire. It's just the next day, one more move and they'll be a millionaire. And everybody wants that dream. But honestly, I'd rather everybody in general, be able to function to kind of do what they want to do. And if you want to go farther and up and above that, you have that option to do. But that's, I don't want to get into my politics too much on here, but that's kind of where I am.
I love that, though, because we've never talked about this before, and, that is such a quietly humanitarian, cool thing that you've never revealed that before.
Well, it's hard because I can't say I'm hurting in any given way, but, and people would assume that I'm super capitalistic because I like driving fast cars and I like traveling and everything else. But yeah, and I live well, but I think I was my happiest when I was doing kind of what you're doing. When I had my own business, making my own video games, I wasn't making nearly as much money as I'm making now, but I was happy. Every day when I woke up, I did what I wanted to do. And my work was what I wanted to do. And then when I finished the amount of work I wanted to do for that day, I might go out. And that's just how I lived, and it was great. And I think everybody should live like that. Everybody should at least experience it once. And for a lot of people that aren't as fortunate as I was to happen to do the right things at the right time, universal basic income might kind of be that avenue where people could actually live their lives instead of wage slaving day by day.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, I think, because think about all of us born onto a planet. My impression is that we come onto the planet kind of clean slate in one way and established in, some of our, I would call it karma, but from a karmic standpoint, it just means you come with stuff. You come with baggage. You come with lessons and themes and different stuff you're trying to play out, right? The way that I see it, we kind of design everything beforehand, and then we, like a choose your own adventure book, get the choice points of free will at all these different places in life. So at every moment in time, I could have come here today and done this talk, or I could have stayed at the farm that I'm living on with my friends.
Yeah, Chelsea's on a farm right now, by the way. Yeah.
Which is amazing. So we're going to talk about, probably a little bit of what I've learned from that. It ties back to what we're talking about now, actually, is that I'm realizing at this point in my life that I came in with the same stuff that I'm remembering now. And it's what related to what you're talking about, is that there's certain base level stuff as a human for me, and probably universally for a lot of us. I'm really slow at everything. I like not having constraints on my time because then I don't feel anxious to perform in any certain way at any certain time, which, especially from a feminine perspective, I feel like that might resonate with women who were kind of sold into being everything the way that I was. We were after this boom of women who going into the workplace and being boss bitches and doing all this stuff. And it's exhausting. I just want to be a piece of art. I just want to be one with nature. I want to be, standing in front of a mirror and messing around with, makeup and weird stuff for 2 hours today, which was just part of what felt right. And then I took a bath, and then, I read some cards.
That's good that you took a bath. That's kind of important. You look kind of hippie, so I wasn't sure if you still took baths or what.
Yeah, not when I'm on the farm as much, because you're just, I'll go out and walk the fields naked. Yeah, and it feels incredible. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff, though. And then this kind of stuff, sitting with people that you actually want to talk to about and bridging the gap of different mindsets and different ways of life, right? It just feels better than clocking into work and driving the car and doing all these things. At the beginning of life, I never cared about any of that. And then you get kind of sold into certain things, I think, along the way. Yeah,
school kind of gets you started on that path.
It sure does.
And then you continue. And I was somebody that So I was a A student in elementary school, middle school. High school, I learned how to skip school, and I became a dropout basically because I just didn't go to class anymore. So yeah, I've been this way forever where I just don't, I work from home, I get my work done, and at the very least, I don't like that I like the freedom of not having to do 9 to 5 every day and go somewhere else. But again, there's a amount of privilege there that I'm able to do it, and a lot of people can't. But
It's good to acknowledge.
yeah, but let's bridge into this reading really quickly
Okay.
because I'm kind of interested in that because I have never done a reading because again I don't believe in I don't believe in anything until it's proven to me. Like so I need proof for anything, so I don't believe in things without proof. So let's get started with the reading.
Cool.
It'll be interesting. I've never done it before.
All right, so I'm going to have you shuffle the cards because generally that's what I have people do. Let me give it a good shuffle before I give it to you.
All right. Oh, these some big cards. I can't do my fancy poker
No,
dealing
you
shuffling.
can't. Not with these. And these are the smaller ones I have too. So with tarot is a way to see just one layer beneath the surface of what might be obvious.
Oh, one thing. After I get my reading, I think Jen should do a reading too. Yeah, she can take my spot.
I was
and
going to
do
say,
it.
if you want to get into the real truth of stuff, because sometimes we go deep, you know? We might keep it kind of light because I don't know if Aaron and Jen want all of their secrets blasted out on the internet, but
Oh, I don't have any. I have very few secrets. My secrets are to protect other people, not myself. I just.
that's a good philosophy.
Yeah, I hope. About myself, I'm pretty much an open book unless it affects work. And that's pretty much it.
That's fair. 'Cause
All
That's
right.
your livelihood.
Yeah, going back to my pro card days. Oh no,
Now
my
with this
deck.
deck.
All right, I shuffled my deck. I'm gonna cut the deck.
So not that everybody is not experiencing this to some degree, but especially for you. So I read the tarot cards and I'm also going to read through your chakras, which is a form of energy reading. And so with your solar plexus chakra, which is the one that sticks out to me the most, I find this common with men too when I read for men, that there's a need for physical touch that isn't happening right now. And again, universal issue that we're probably all
What, I need physical touch? No, I don't need physical
Affection,
touch.
yes,
no,
you do.
no.
don't
I'm all
need any
good.
physical
No,
touch?
I'm good. Yeah.
You must be dissociated from that part of you because that's the thing that screams at me the loudest is, you know, the physical connection of, you know, especially being in a close personal relationship, I think.
Oh, what are those? I have no idea. What
I
that is.
know, and that's why.
I need another shot now.
I was going to
This is great.
say, you know, we're going to go into that realm that's probably a little bit less comfortable, but let's take a look at that. So it's funny because I'm going to show the cards to people so that they can see. This is the Valeda Woods deck. If you're interested, it's an independent deck. Go support the artist. She's super cool, and you can find her on Instagram. The Harvester of Swords is the King of Swords in the regular deck. So this would tell us, this is kind of the main focus of Aaron's life right now. This would be, if there was a card for Aaron, this would be Aaron to a T. Because it's very analytical. The heart is like hidden back, you know, deep. There's no like showing a lot of emotion or stuff outwardly because you like to stand back and observe and watch how things are playing out and be really decisive about, okay, I'm going to do this and arrange all of my stuff mentally before I take, you know, you're not an impulsive person. This person is not impulsive.
Yeah, but you know me though. That's kind of cheating.
Right. I was
Yeah.
going to say,
Yeah.
but this is something, you know, probably in the next few months, there's going to be a lot of attention on you when it comes to the artwork you're doing or the like it's to me, it says, the word doesn't make any sense to me, but it's like transmedia. It's like things that involve more than one media source. So it might be something like the podcast that we're on right now. It's creative but technical at the same time. So it may be like you do video game stuff. You do, you know, different projects that have to do with technology and art. Again, I know you, so I know that. But I feel like there's going to be some recognition having to do with those particular projects. And he's got 4 different, let's see if I can get it in the camera. There's we talked about this before anyway. There's at least 3 different projects. There's one main project probably that's happening through work right now that has some sort of international reach. But these are his personal projects over here, these 3, which is cool.
All right.
But it's cool because this is actually a really good time for you to be celebrated for your technical knowledge, but the creativity within it. Like what you bring to technology gives it heart and gives it an edge that, from a storytelling perspective.
Okay.
So, does that make sense?
I guess.
So far? You're
continue.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how much is you knowing me, but yeah, continue.
Well, right.
Yeah.
It's easier to read someone for me when I know very little about them, so my mind doesn't overlay anything. A lot of this, even this card in and of itself is a very logical card, so when I read, I'm also kind of taking on the energy and putting it through my filter of stuff.
All right.
Yeah. But I do really feel like there's going to be either awards or recognition and definitely within peer groups and things, but probably on a bigger scale. And it seems like, here's the 10 of Swords. I was talking about this card at the very beginning, and it shows up here. So this happens, this would be Aaron's biggest block right now. That's how we pulled it. So, too many details, not enough time. Probably, and again, this is stuff that we talked about, so my mind's going to go back to it, but open-ended projects, we were just talking about some creative projects and things like that. I think it's kind of the same old, like going through the same routine, kind of being able to look at a situation and go, yeah, I have that figured out already, like that's boring, or I don't want to do that again, even when it comes to dating and other things like that. I do feel like you're wanting new communication, new relationships, like a breath of new in your life, because without travel, without other stuff that's interesting.
Well, that's true. I have been missing travel quite a bit, so yeah.
And, you think about this, when I'm looking at the cards so that everybody can see what I'm looking at, here's these indications kind of Aaron's hanging out here with all these things where it's like, yeah, I could go do that, but that's the same thing with the same person. Like, all of this Swords is about mental, like, kind of feeling mentally bogged down and just, like, over it. And here's those little, like, wispy thoughts of, like, oh, if I could only just, it's that dreamer mentality of maybe even having dreams where you are traveling or doing stuff because you can't physically, not that you can't physically, but it almost feels pointless to go do stuff if everything's going to be shut down or it's not going to be as fun. Does that make sense?
All right. It makes sense.
Okay. Let's see what else we have. All right. Let's see what's coming up in the next 6 weeks. Okay. So we have the High Priestess reverse. I'm going to spend some time with it. Let's see where it's at in Aaron's energy field.
The High Priestess?
High Priestess reverse.
What was it called in the original deck?
This is the High Priestess. So
All
it's
right.
called the same thing.
All
Yep,
right.
in the tarot deck. It's just, in this deck, everything's a plant or a flower. In the regular deck, they're people, usually. So the High Priestess
I want Star Platinum.
What's that?
I want Star Platinum.
What is Star Platinum?
No, I'm naming JoJo stuff right now. I want Hierophant Green then. If it's a plant that...
there is a Hierophant card.
Yeah, I want that one.
Okay.
I want to be Kakoyan. No, I'm just JoJoing all around here. It's a thing. Continue, sorry.
I believe you. I don't know what you're referencing.
I want the world.
Okay. The world is a card, too.
I know.
Yeah. So you know some of these. Okay.
I know them because of JoJo's. Yeah, it's a thing. All right, continue.
The High Priestess is the bridger of worlds. So this is traditionally the character that's stuck in between. And we're seeing that what's cool about Aaron's perspective is that it's probably very universal at this point with all the restrictions that everybody has. There's so much happening in our mind space and so much physical restriction on getting close to other people, whether or not it's even worth it to travel and do fun things. People are talking about Zoom fatigue and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I've been using Zoom for 2 years. So there's just a feeling of so much overwhelming creativity and a need for collaboration with other people and a need for people that are on your level that really want to make something great. That, you were talking about your video game days. it's not just working for yourself. It's like actually finding other visionary creative people that want to put something together and like run with it and, you know, do something wild. This is the card that comes up when we have the feeling of like wanting to create something like, not literally, but like Woodstock, and the fact that we can't gather, you know, something revolutionary, something so vibrant. It's like everything that you've collected over the years that you've kind of been holding close to the chest creatively or has gone unfinished. You're like, I just want a big group of people. I want to run with it. I want to get these ideas and this stuff out there. And what if we could actually do a huge production or a huge like thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's like, it's bigger than the small little like, oh yeah, we did this together and it was fun. It's like, I want to change the way people think about things in the world. We watched Ready Player One together. That freaking haunts me.
I forgot about that.
Like every day, I think, are we, you know, or if you guys watch Black Mirror, it's a similar kind of thing where it's like, are we, the game show episode, where I'm like, are we going in that direction where
we're on a bike?
We're going to so dissociate from reality, and we're not, because the way that I see stuff, like what we're reading for Aaron right now, is that there's so much human spirit in every single one of us. All these untaken actions because, you know, there's this work restriction or there's this thing that we shouldn't do, like for me. You shouldn't just walk out on your lawn naked in the suburbs. It's going to, like, freak people out, and it's actually illegal.
Yeah, kind of. A little bit.
Not for Aaron in particular, but that's my example.
I'm not in the suburbs. Otherwise, I would do it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you get away with it now, but downtown Detroit used to be a little bit less.
Yeah. I saw naked people down here all the time, actually. Yeah.
See a bomb peeing once or twice, just driving around.
No, I've literally seen people walking around naked downtown before. And in New York, I've seen that quite a few times, too. So, yeah.
Those
still
people
happens.
are onto something.
They're having a good time.
On something.
They're having a good time.
They're also expressing... This is the unexpressed creativity on such a huge level that it, you know, we can't even fathom it. And it is, you know, this Renaissance period that I feel we're about to go through. So with Aaron in particular... it's funny because we were talking about in the beginning, like you being recognized for this stuff that crosses technology and creativity, but this feels like physical set making or physical mediums or something where you're like actually working with paper, or you're working with like, you know,
I physically built this set that I built right now. That's something, right?
It feels like maybe the material's a little bit more organic, not, you know what I mean, not technical, but I feel like there's a lot of loose ends to tie up. And it isn't, to me, this future stuff that's going to be opening up for you, it's not necessarily, let's say it this way. If you're a creative person and you are visionary in a way, because like you said, you prepared for the zombie apocalypse, you've just already known stuff, even if it was just an interest of yours.
I'm paranoid.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Paranoid.
That could be considered a psychic skill. I'm anxious, and that has told me a lot of information about the future that's been really helpful, including leaving Portland before the riots, even though we talked about them being...
The 3-block riots.
3-block riots, it's fine. But still.
No, the whole city is burning down. That's what I hear on social media all the time. And I'm like, my friend's like, no, it's all right. Yeah, it's just that same area that people are always... having issues in, so yeah. I haven't been to Portland in a long time. I need to go back there. Not now, but sometime.
Yeah, at some point in time, yeah. It's, I mean, with everything, you know, burning there too, it's, my family lives there and it's not the most fun right now, but definitely worth a trip. But yeah, I feel like, you know, this is kind of like getting together on a much bigger level from a creative standpoint, and yeah, doing some sort of huge physical, like I said, physical set building, in person, broadcast out to the world potentially kind of thing. And because this card, I'm looking at this card just in case you guys are wondering why I'm looking down too. You know, it's funny because now that I'm looking at it on the camera, this reminds me of pot leaves, and I'm thinking about how that relates to, like, you know, substances and how things are going to be regulated coming up here. So when it comes to Aaron, obviously I do know you. So I know that there's always this like creative stuff churning under the surface, and
True.
that going on. But it feels like it's the suppressed creativity that you've done the job thing. Like you said, you've been in a place where maybe life was a little bit more creative, but this is like next level, like stuff you thought about when you were a kid that you never got to carry out, or big groups of people coming together. It reminds me of, what are those like mobs called,
Flash mobs?
Yes, but it's not like that you're going to do that exactly, but it's like that level of organization around this like epic creative display of some sort.
All right.
So being able to, I think the message for you, but for anybody who's listening, you'll probably relate to this reading because that's kind of how it works when we energy match and stuff, is anything that you have been keeping literally under the hood in your head, it has to come out. It's going to explode out of you, or else it's going to come out in destructive ways, like the way that we use substances, or the way that we, try to press everything down. That won't even work in the next, I think, 6 weeks to, the end of the year. I think we're all just going to be so fed up, and we're going to go like, fuck it. Yeah. What haven't I done in my life that if my life ended tomorrow, I'd be really bummed about? I'm going to do it now. I'm just going to see who's down.
Yeah, I've done most of the things I planned on doing. So I think that's one thing. I have to come up with something new to do. Mm-hmm. I'll figure something out. But I've done most of the things I planned on doing. And I do miss that energy of driving towards something I haven't done. So I'll figure out something new to do that I haven't done yet.
That's exciting because that's kind of like the thing on the bottom of the deck. The card on the bottom of the deck is Two of Wands. So looking for that new opportunity. Two of Wands is almost always job change too. And since we're talking about job loosely now,
I will not be doing a job change. People that are watching from my job, I have to do that. Yeah.
Right. I understand that. When Two of Wands comes up, it's about inspiration. So we have two cards that have so much to do with the mental space, which is really where Aaron likes to live. The High Priestess has a lot more to do about watery energy, which is emotional creative. This is inspiration creative. So fire energy is all about feeling that spark again, like you said. Being able to open up life and go, okay, what's the next thing? Where can I travel to? Like, who can I connect with that's like this brand new experience? Because everything, as we saw, is kind of just old and boring and stale, or anxiety inducing even, because it's just like if I try and think my way into something new, it won't work because I've already done, like you said, you've already done everything, a lot of the things that you want to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's always more depth that we can go to, but for the purpose of me being live for the first time and doing a reading for the first, I think this is the first reading I haven't done for like, a girlfriend on the phone about, do they like me back or they leave? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You lost me already. So I'm going to do a fun fact. In JoJo's, High Priestess is the stand of Midler. I'm just saying, it's not my favorite stand, but...
Tell me about this. What's the stand? What's a stand and what's that?
So, I have to go back a bit. So basically in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the characters have psychic projections called stands. And those projections are basically superpowers, but they're a psychic projection that has an image. And the stand kind of fits the user. And so if, for instance, I don't want to go too far ahead, but if you have a fiery personality, your stand can make fire appear or something like that. And in the original, when stands were first invented in a series, the first group of stands were named after the tarot deck.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, so the main hero had Star Platinum, and the main villain had the World. So Yeah, it kind of just like, yeah, it's too much to get into. I could talk about JoJo's all day, so I won't. But I'm always going to make JoJo's jokes when they pop up. So, that's my thing.
I don't know JoJo's. It reminds me, and it's probably so bad because I'm like, I don't know anything about, I don't even know what you would call this area of stuff we're talking about. That's how little I know.
It's nerd stuff. It's definitely nerd stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm a tarot nerd, so you
Yeah.
can be a nerd about anything. But this stuff, I don't know that much about. Recently started watching Avatar with my roommates who I'm living with. And that's like a whole new cool world for me. So haven't gone down that too far. But Fire Nation and all these different elements, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff. Like this card system is from repurposed in the 1400s to have images of people on it, but it used to be a card game, and it was used for divination before that, so 14 or 1500s. So it's been around for a while. That stuff that you're talking about is probably based on ancient.
So when you read cards, how far down do you go? I'm just curious.
How far down what?
In the deck do you go?
It just depends on what I'm reading. Like today, we're keeping it not, we're not going super in depth. We're not going to go into every dimension of life. If we were going to go into finances and also into, dating and everything else, we kept it a little bit more general. But my
dog's having a party right now, apparently. Yeah.
But it just depends on the person, and it depends on the reading.
All right.
So for you, I didn't do any particular spread except for the very first two cards.
Can I look at your deck for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just curious.
Yep.
And keep talking, but I just...
So a lot of times, my favorite spread, and I don't use spreads super often, is the chakra spread, because it'll tell me about each area of life is a chakra, and it'll tell me specifically about how that person is doing in that area of life. That's really, really in-depth. That would be a whole mouthful for today. So
if you went two more down, you would have gotten to the Fool.
Yes.
The Fool is one of my favorite stands, actually. It is Iggy's stand. Iggy is on this box that I'm using to prop up the camera right there. The terrier right there. That's actually his stand, is the Fool. I just wanted to bring that out.
Yep. The Fool in this deck has that quality, because the Fool in the tarot is the 0 card. Mm-hmm. And it's basically like having childlike, no holds bar, all the way in, to your detriment sometimes, experience of life.
Here's an odd thing. I'm still going JoJo's. So these two are next to each other in my deck. So I have the Chariot. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Yep.
There you go.
I have the Chariot. Won't focus, but whatever. But right next to Chariot is Emperor. Another JoJo's reference. Sorry. Silver Chariot and Emperor clashed quite a few times in JoJo's. So.
It makes sense, considering.
Yeah. So, you said you were going to make me a little uncomfortable. You have not yet made me uncomfortable, so...
What we need to do, I say that in general as a warning to people, because my whole existence is propagated on, I have to speak the truth almost immediately when I experience stuff. Otherwise, I feel like I get really backed up with stuff. Mm-hmm. So, in my previous business, I used to talk a lot about it as the taboo truth, like saying the thing that you feel or having the emotion that you feel in the exact moment that you have it, because society is not necessarily, we don't get socialized that way.
Can I do one more thing?
Yes.
So in my weird shuffle that I just did, I am not cheating on this. So I pulled, I got the world, right? What do I have next?
The star.
Yep. See, now this is I'm starting to believe in it, because I just made a JoJo's deck when I shuffled this. So yeah, good job, me.
See, there's a fun personality to each tarot deck too, depending on the user, the person interacting. So that deck's a little bit cheeky, I think, with you.
Hermit. Yeah, that's Joseph's stand, Hermit Purple.
Really?
Yep.
Hermit Purple, and that flower's purple in it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good deck.
So when we were talking before we started, we were talking about this taboo truth thing, and I said we need to talk about what is happening with people's intimate relationships, especially romantic relationships and dating during this quarantine, because why wouldn't we? You know, it's always something like, when do we not want to hear the insides of people's experiences about that? So, so tell us a little bit about what dating has been like this year for you. I will share too, because I'm fully open about all the insanity.
If I were to be honest about dating this year for me, it's been mostly non-existent. When quarantine hit, there were basically no avenues to meet anybody, and I wasn't dating anybody, so I went dry for a pretty long period of time. I have hung out with people, or a person or people, since. I will be vague about everything that I say here. I have hung out since, but no, I haven't really dated since there, and it's been kind of an issue and kind of awkward, because you just kind of lose your avenues for meeting people. You can't go out and mingle. Even since you used to be a bartender, you can't go to a bar and sit and talk to a bartender and happen to meet somebody else at the bar. If you go out, you're outdoors, everybody's already in their groups. You know, you might happen to meet somebody or something like that. But in general, no, you don't. The opportunities just aren't there. Post-COVID world, dating is only basically swipe sites like Bumble and Tinder and Hinge. And I mean, I'm an unspecified age that's a little bit too old for those sites in general, just because.
Why do you feel that way?
It's just how things are gated. Like people, where people's preferences are. At my age, most people are married or in a relationship or in a different life situation than I am. They don't live as kids eternally like I do. So it makes it a little different for me at my age. Now, if I was 25, 30, I'd be going crazy on Tinder right now, but I'm not. So that kind of comes into play.
Yeah, it's a good point, like you said, because I have the same experience, even beyond age. Like you said, you live like you're a child eternally. You do things, you set up your life so that it's like that, and so do I. And that for me looks like, you know, I've been traveling the country for 2 years because I just wanted to be able to be wherever. So I didn't know anything about online business. I took everything that I do and turned it into something that I could do on the road, because I just wanted to see national parks. I wanted to, you know, go to all the big, I wanted to be in San Francisco and Portland and all the big cities in the West Coast. Did Costa Rica for a minute. I always get them mixed up.
Where in Costa Rica did you go?
I'm like, I could show you on a picture of the map, because that was my only way of getting around there, because my GPS stuff didn't work. So I had to literally zoom in on Google Maps and just follow myself, like in the, as I was driving. So I drove from San Juan, is the main city there, right? Is that right? I'm really bad at remembering the names of things.
I'm brain farting. I know I fly in there or something like. Yeah.
If it's not San Juan, then
it's something like
us,
that. Yeah,
because
I'm brain farting right now, but yeah.
But I drove basically 4 hours, like down the coast, to go to Envision Festival and to work that last year, which is in February. So that was incredible. That is the thing I miss the most right now. Other than my little piece of normal was always the gym. I'm kind of like over that now, because I like being outside so much that I'm like, I don't really want to stand on a hamster wheel and watch TV, you know?
Yeah.
But
Black
concerts
Mirror and the bike.
Yeah, and I mean, that's way too real too. And movies like Idiocracy and stuff, we were just talking about how like that's not funny anymore. It's way too scary and real. But yeah, so like you said, I have such a weird thing with people when I'm on these dating apps, because like you said, I had the same experience where I'm like, okay, I already work from home and don't see a ton of people because I'm really introverted. And on top of that, now everything's closed down. I was in San Diego at the time that everything was still shut down, and Mammoth Lakes is a small town. So the one person that came to my house to fix my refrigerator was super cool. We talked for like 4 hours, had a long-term relationship, so I don't infringe on those. But there was definitely something going on there because we had 4 hours of conversation. I'm like, oh, someone just delivered right to my door when I haven't seen anyone here. But dating in San Diego, being on Hinge and stuff like that, I'm a very specific kind of person. So, like you said, my life's set up so that I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I don't think about distance and time the same way that people do. So, when you're living in one place, I feel like to me, it's not that weird to date someone who lives 7 hours away because I'm always driving or I'm always on the road. Every 6 weeks or 8 weeks, I'd change location for a while. So dating someone in San Francisco when I was living in San Diego, I was like, whatever, I could just pop over. I'll take a flight or whatever.
It's a long way away, but I get it. Yeah.
Well, and that's what the perception, like you said, is different when you're living differently than people your age or people in general. Mm-hmm. And, on my profile, when it says I'm psychic and literally a fourth of the matches I get say prove it, I'm like, yeah,
that's
thanks.
Boring. Yeah. I won't say I come up with creative responses when I do respond to people, but that's too easy.
It's obvious. I know.
Easy.
It's like the most obvious thing you could say. And it's like, yeah, you don't think that like 500 other dumbasses didn't say the same thing to me?
Yeah, too easy.
Yeah. I feel like someone was talking to me about this recently too. There's this like decision fatigue that we're kind of going through where there's so much available information and people and access points and connections virtually that I don't feel like it was like when I was a kid where you get to know someone. People, like, ghosting is the absolute normal.
It's very normal. Yeah.
And we've talked about this before between men and women about how maybe that happens. I don't know that it happens more with men than it does with women, but
I think ghosting is just ghosting. I think guys get thirstier at the end, so they keep people around more. I think that's the thing. Guys get horny and they don't want their dry spells, so they keep people around.
That's cool. It's cool to like. It's not cool that happens, but it's cool to like hear the male perspective because we as women, like, it's for me anyway. It's all about having someone to talk to. Having the emotional connection.
Guys want that too, but we get yeah.
That's the way you guys are built. It's not like
I don't even know if it's built. It's that I think that growing up as a guy, especially when I was young, you're like when you're a teenager, you're really horny, and most teenagers are not getting laid, and you're just really frustrated. And I think as you get older, you just never want to be in that position again. So you just kind of make sure you have something going on in the background, in which case you hold on to things you wouldn't normally hold on to. I know I did that a lot in my 30s. I've stopped doing it now, but I know back in my 30s, I used to always like hold on to things just in case because I didn't want to be dry like I was when I was 20 or whenever. So I didn't have the normal college experience either. So when everybody else was having fun, I was still going through dry spells. So I think that is in the back of a lot of guys' minds. They just don't want to be without. So they're less likely to ghost. They'll keep people on the hook. They'll keep people around. And that's kind of the reason I think that women are more likely to parachute out of a situation than the average guy is.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? We as women generally, it's so different nowadays, but I'm fairly traditional, which surprised me when it comes to how I like the roles in the relationship. Like what I found in just the last year or so, as I've kind of looked into different teachings about male, female, and all this kind of stuff, is that I've always been this like very decisive, dominant, person. When I want something, I just do it, And I found that every relationship I've had with a man doing that, I've not liked. So I found that for me, I'm way more interested in like being pursued, which I think is potentially a natural state of being biologically for us women. In nature, it's not always how it works with every single animal, But for me, I've just found that, like every relationship I've initiated romantically with a guy has always gone poorly for the same reasons, and has always been undesirable to me for the same reasons. Probably just because I am built as this open-ended, creative, flowy thing, and I can dominate the world and I can do all the things, but I get really tired, and then I'm like, just like somebody else to be the dominant one.
So what's the laziest animal when it comes to pursuing relationships? Because that's probably me. Like, I'm whatever, do like sloths just sit there? Or I'm trying to think of an animal that just sits there. Because that's pretty much
sloth
me.
moves slow, obviously.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think like a...
I've seen, we've sat when you were on a dating app at the bar and like looked through people and like looked at your conversations and stuff. And you're not passive like the people that I've dated before. You're not when you're saying like you're slow or you're like you don't do anything.
Well, I just don't try to date anybody. I just like, it's not convenient. That's what happens to me all the time. It's not convenient. So, I
get that. I don't know. I feel like, and I'm not going to speak for, all women, but from my perspective, so anybody out there can take this as the female perspective. I just feel like I can go without sex. I don't care about that as much. I want to have it with the right person because that feels best for me. I've done the casual sex thing after I got out of a really like sex dry 1 year long-term relationship. That feels fucked up as a woman to be not sexually desired. It feels so like something something I never thought I would encounter.
Yeah, because women don't normally get that. Like, you get too much sexual desire from men. So
we get too much, and we get touched too much. We get talked about and talked to too much.
Yeah.
And then to go through that, it was someone that I had an incredible emotional connection with coming out of the previous. It was kind of like back-to-back relationships of opposites. Having really great sex, but not a deep emotional connection with someone, and then dating this person who it was like we were together every single day, and that person never wanted to. I've
been that guy before. I've done that before.
So okay, so like, what is the thing that creates that like lack of drive or like lack of interest? What was it for you? You're like, how much do I want to say?
No, I have to think about how to explain this. In my case, it was because I was dating somebody at a bad time in their lives. And my drive is driven by creativity and moving forward and adventure and things like that. That's what turns me on. Mm-hmm. And if I'm with a person that is not adventurous, is not there, then I'm not turned on. I'm turned on by new things, so new people, but that's also adventure, and that ties into the whole thing. So that came into play at a down time in that person's life, and so I was guilty of being the guy in the situation that you're talking about right now. So yeah, that's been there before. I don't imagine it was the same with you because you're typically always trying to do something and always creative and always have some kind of energy. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said. So that's really interesting that was your experience. And it's really cool because if you guys know Aaron, maybe you don't that much yet. I don't know who would be watching. But
people we know.
You have such a straight face about stuff. And you're very contained and you're very stoic. And there's a lot going on in here, but even that is like very, like, I remember serving you at the bar 7 or 8 times before, like days apart too, before we'd had a more in-depth conversation. Even as we're talking now, I'm like learning so much more about you. That like adventure and other things. I see that you travel. I know that you do, because we're friends, that you do stuff like that. But it's cool to hear you talk about it because we haven't really like.
Yeah, I like my patterns. I like knowing where everything is. I like things being where they go, etc. Mm-hmm. But then there's a side of me that just wants to like explore everything. And so yeah, I'll go to the same bars, I'll go to the same restaurants, I'll go to the same places, I'll sit in the same places, But then a week later, I'll just go jump in the water with sharks because, that's the two sides of me, basically. So I need to have that adventure side, but I need to have my relaxed pattern, too. And, and looking for, if I were to get into a relationship or to look for one, I would be looking for that same kind of thing where, yeah. Like I say, the greatest relationship is being able to be in a room together doing your own thing. I think that's perfect, that you don't always have to be on somebody and right next
I
to
don't know
them.
how people can do that.
I have an anecdote. I was hanging out with somebody talking about post-COVID dating, and it just it got to a point where I just told her to go home, and my roommate saw that, and so I have a witness. My temp roommate is a witness to it. I blamed it on her not liking Team America World Police. This was actually a true story. I actually posted a status about it. People thought I was joking. I wasn't joking. Yeah, that was the last straw. There was a night of annoyance, and she just wouldn't just stop. And it was just intrusive, and it was just too intrusive, and I couldn't take it anymore. So, but that's also what happens when you get to my age and start dating. You know what you want, and it becomes even harder because you're less willing. Your life is set. You're already doing what you want to do, so you're less willing to make more compromises and things like that. So.
That's actually a really good point to make, because that's probably something that's still in there for me, is well, I don't think I'm at my full capacity or my full potential in this life. And so the variable of that does inform how willing I am to be open to certain people. And so my dating experiences this year, and going back to that one particular guy, it was pretty much the opposite. I feel like my problem is, and the reason that I've now refined my search to, I want someone, who's not necessarily that they have to be adventurous and do all this stuff with me, but that thing about me cannot intimidate them, because I have been told so many times in my dating life that I intimidate men or I emasculate men just by being the person that I am. That's weird.
I don't see you as that type. I've never dated you, so I don't know, but I don't see that from you as yeah.
That's because I think you're comfortable in your masculinity. Sorry.
It's good to hear. Everybody, I'm comfortable in my masculinity. Yeah, there we go. But
there is a unspoken, and you can tell a lot by the way people carry themselves, men carry themselves. Like you said, you know what you're about, and you're established in that in a way that you feel comfortable. And I think that makes a huge difference, because I think that the men that I've tend to be drawn to or dated were people that ended up looking at me to take direction, or they were emasculated by me because of the focus and the direction and the adventure and the creativity and the spontaneity and all the craziness that I have, that it just hasn't worked out very well.
I'm going to take a quick break because I'm going to adjust the light because we're losing some. But I'm going to put you on the spot in 2 seconds, so let me just adjust my light, and I will be right back. And worried about her serving guys and talking to them for too long and things like that. It's so weird. I don't date a bartender if you're worried about that. Date a Amish woman or something. I don't know. No, I'm not saying anything bad about the Amish either, but I'm just saying, why? I mean, I don't see getting that possessive over somebody. My rule for relationships is that if you think somebody's going to cheat, then the relationship's over. At that point. There's no point being in a relationship with somebody that you're worried about them cheating with.
See, but you're very logical, and people that are driven more by those, when in my realm it's chakras, the lower, you're up here and you're thinking holistically about, like you said, if A plus B equals C. So if they seem like they're going to cheat, I don't want to do it. Or if they're a bartender, it's going to come along with these things because I've observed that. Okay, that's great. A lot of people, they might even get to that step that you're at, but they are so not comfortable with themselves that it's difficult for them to see. This is something I've experienced a lot with the men that I've dated. It's difficult for the men that I've dated to see that I don't belong to them. I belong in the world, to the world, in the way that I want to express naturally in any moment. And when I make a commitment, because I am a monogamous person. I like that. That's just what works for me. And, you know, I take it very seriously. So I'm not going to be, if it's my job to be nice to people though, you know, what can you do?
Yeah.
And I'm just doing my job, and I also
I know sometimes you got mad at people. You weren't that nice. That nice. Yeah, sometimes you were not that nice to certain people.
I was not that nice. I was not that nice because I did not like bartending. It wasn't my like intended life career, you know. I shouldn't say I didn't like it, because I like that. I like any atmosphere where people feel like they can speak the truth. And like everybody's on vacation. Those are my favorite places.
All right.
Because all the stuff that we're talking about with the COVID stuff is, you know, it's all a made up world, and I'm making my own up. I would rather be in a place where people are relaxed and thinking about life open-ended, especially with their time and their energy. And that at the time of my life was like, oh, do I want to go be a teacher for $15 an hour and wake up at 7 in the morning? No. I would rather make $50 an hour and hang out with people and be in an environment where I can do whatever I want, to a degree.
To a degree.
To a degree. But to a greater degree than anybody sitting in an office job, which is my worst nightmare to me.
Yeah. So. I'm not the best in offices. That's why I work better from home. I typically don't do office stuff or anything else. I just hide. And that's me in an office job, hiding. I get my work done, hide in my corner. That's it.
I get it. I feel like the highly creative and intelligent people in the world like can't do all these measurements we have for, you know, work from 9 to 5. Like, there's a level of intelligence or aptitude that we have that just makes it hard for us to like fit within those boxes and those rules. And so, like you said, you could just cope differently. You know, a friend of mine who's just super proficient at everything and just like the most badass person I've ever met. She's like, yeah, I just do everything, and then, you know, I do everybody else's work too, because I'm bored and I can't sit around and be at this, you know, she doesn't have to go to the office anymore, but be at this place for 8 hours and just go, you know, what am I doing? But yeah, dating has been weird this year. So I've been mostly, and I think maybe some of us have been doing this, I've been mostly just revisiting past people and like in my head reflecting back on the past stuff. So there's a lot of like, you know, dreaminess or thinking about things. When I've dated, I met someone new on Tinder when I was back here in Detroit in December, and that didn't turn out. So I'm like, God, you know, going backwards doesn't, I don't think, work very well most of the time. And when you do that, I think we're all just looking for some comfort right now and something predictable in some way. I
might have gone slightly backwards sometime along the way during this period, being very vague.
I just have to think that most people are doing that. Otherwise, the other phase that I've been through is that doing it all in your head, where you're just like, you look at the app and you look at stuff and you kind of talk to people a little bit, then you're like, whatever. And then you just kind of daydream or whatever about something previous or something that could have happened. I have this pattern with men where, like I said, I end up being the pursuer, and it's bad. It never feels good, you know? So I don't know what...
We're pretty much always stuck in that position, though. That's the unfortunate part about being a man, when we are stuck in that role because of society very often.
I'd be really good at being a man, because I'm like, I want that. That's good. This works for me. And I'm like you. I'm very, in a different way, I know what I want. And when it's in front of me, I extra know what I want. And then I'm like, okay, remove anything that's in the way, because now we're just going to do this and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And that used to, when I was younger, be like, jump in. And
even when it's a terrible decision, too. But yeah.
See, that's the thing, though. How many people in the world want to play it safe right now with the position that puts so many people in with their jobs or whatever else? People like me and Aaron, I'm going to toot our horns for a second. Why would you not want to be with the people who are going to go all in no matter what it is? You know? For me, it is always, I'm very socially awkward. If I can't talk about everything and anything, then I don't feel good. Mm-hmm. So I generally only put myself in situations where we're just going to crack it wide open and do all the things. I feel the same way about dating. I'm like, if it's kind of then I'm like, I don't have time for you. I could do like 10 million cool projects in your place, or how it is when you're creative, and especially for me when I'm introverted. It's like there's a whole world in here that I really like, so I'd rather just hang out with me. But yeah, I don't know. Dating has been disappointing, and when you're a spiritual person, some people out there, if you experience
I'm pretty much
this,
the opposite of spiritual.
I was going to say, I'm going to
yeah.
explain this perspective. There is such a vivid world, and we can equate it to like any of the stuff that you watch, maybe that has like multiple dimensions or timelines or whatever, is like there's such an active experience of those things internally that you can be psychically connecting with someone, telepathically connecting with someone, and never play it out on this plane of existence. And it's insane. It's an insane feeling to like dream about someone and feel there's a point of contact and there's communication happening, but it's not physical, and there's no progress and there's no movement forward. So that happens a lot with people who are intuitive. So anybody out there who feels like they're crazy because they have a psychic telepathic connection with the people that they date, you're not. Every time, we're sending signals to each other all the time. So every time they're thinking about me, I get a little jolt, and I might not know it's that. I might be like, oh, why am I thinking about this person right now? Or why did I just turn on that song that they made? Don't ever do that.
All right.
Don't do that, people. Don't listen to the music that the people that you like make who rejected you.
Ooh,
it's really sad.
That sounds rough.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes you just have to like get the feeling out though, because you're like, I can't talk to this person because
they rejected you.
Yes, because they rejected me. So I'll just listen to their song like a weirdo and go.
All right.
Very transparent.
Well, I've never listened to a song from somebody that rejected me, but I will not do that if that ever happens to me in life.
Yep.
So with that, I think we'll take a little break. Thanks for listening to us ramble on for a bit about quite a few topics. My dog's here, wants to play, so yeah, we'll take a little break now, and we might come back in a little bit. So thanks, guys. Thanks, Chelsea.
Bye.